Introducing tonight's keynote speaker is ElevateMeD mentor, Dr. Janet Vargas.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Janet Vargas, and tonight it is my pleasure and honor to introduce tonight's keynote speaker, Dr. Abigail Solorio. Dr. Solorio became an ElevateMeD Scholar during her fourth year of medical school at the University of Arizona College of Medicine Phoenix campus. She was part of the 2022-2023 cohort. During that year, I was able to spend time with Abby as her mentor. Abby is an Arizona native and first-generation physician. She was born and raised in the Phoenix area. Her upbringing has greatly influenced her commitment to improving healthcare access and outcomes to all individuals. Abby received her undergraduate degree from the University of Arizona, where she received degrees in neuroscience, physiology, and psychology. She also received a master's degree in medical studies, and as previously noted, completed her medical education at the University of Arizona College of Medicine Phoenix campus. Abby matched at Georgetown University, which was her first residency choice. She currently practices family medicine in the Washington, D.C. area. Her passion to provide equitable healthcare to marginalized populations drives her work and her advocacy. She is committed to delivering compassionate, culturally competent care and uplifting the community she serves. Abby was my first ElevateMeD Scholar to mentor. During that time, we were able to talk about many things, but especially about the importance of family support, career goals, the challenges of being a Latina in medicine, and navigating residency choices. I enjoyed our time together so much that I agreed to continue being a mentor for ElevateMeD. I would like to encourage each and every one of you to consider sharing your time and your expertise with ElevateMeD Scholars and become a mentor. Tonight it is my honor to introduce an outstanding young lady, an outstanding physician who is doing great things in medicine, who will continue to do great things in medicine, Dr. Abigail Solorio, tonight's honored keynote speaker. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so grateful to be here tonight, and I want to thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart for showing your support, for celebrating with us, and for allowing me the space to share my story. You know, many times I've been asked what my proudest moment is, and I can say without a doubt it is being here tonight in front of you all because I have the pleasure of introducing myself as Doctora Solorio. I was born into an immigrant family, and not just a family, a neighborhood, a community really. My parents were just teenagers when they immigrated from Mexico City, along with other family members, and we settled into a trailer park community down the street from the county hospital here in Phoenix, Arizona. And they came here in search of more opportunity, so they worked in construction and restaurants, housekeeping, and this work ethic is really what I admired. It's all I knew. And we celebrated diversity within the family, but the surrounding community was unsafe and it was unstable. So the goal was to always get beyond that. And my first exposure to medicine wasn't necessarily a positive one, nor was it really uplifting, but I do believe it was these experiences that inspired me to want to do better. My grandfather was diagnosed with end-stage renal disease. And he had the choice to stay here in the United States to receive his medical care where the capabilities were readily accessible, or return home to the rural city of Teotihuacan in Mexico, where he would be hours away from the nearest medical facility. And his experience with the healthcare system here in the United States left him convinced that there was no way he could possibly receive adequate care here. He did not feel seen or heard by his physicians, so he chose to return home. And my mother was at his side holding his hand when he took his last breath just a few months after. The sentiment within our community was that there was a skepticism of medicine. There was a distrust in the system that had failed so many. And that stigma ran deep. So it was not uncommon for people to not want to seek care, even in their most dire moments. And although he didn't believe in the healthcare system here, he did believe in me. And he was the first person that I had shared with that I wanted to grow up and be a doctor. And so every day before school, he would remind me that I was going to grow up and I was going to be a physician and I was going to make a difference. But the reality was that I had never seen a physician that looked like me or spoke my native language, and coming from an immigrant family, I was socioeconomically at a disadvantage. I was 7 years old when my cousin Max was born, and he was born with autism. And we weren't sure what this would mean for him or for the family. Frankly, didn't know what autism even was. But from that day forward, my aunt became his greatest advocate. And it was at this moment that I realized how profound of an impact there is when there is not enough representation in medicine, when there is not culturally competent care. Because his diagnosis was delayed, and that's not uncommon for minority communities. And at the time, I was the only one that was proficient in English, even at a young age. And that was thanks to my abuelita, who would, every day after school, I would come home and she would teach me what I was learning in school in English, but in Spanish. So we would sit together at the kitchen table and we would read and write together, so I became bilingual. And even at that young age, I involved myself in my family's healthcare and tried to navigate the system the best I could. But my aunt would share her frustrations with me. She would share her concerns. She would ask questions. And what I noticed is that the physicians were dismissive. They placed the blame on her and told her that because she introduced both Spanish and English to him, it's what actually led to his delay. So she carried that guilt. And to know that my family, like so many others that are just trying to advocate for the equal opportunity of health, are at such a disadvantage and disproportionately affected, made me want to do more. And I was confident in my decision that I wanted to pursue a career in medicine. But again, as a first-generation college student, I knew my road would be different. I knew it would be difficult, and I knew it would be expensive, very expensive. And when I would share these concerns with my mom, she would always say, "Abby, there's always a way." So she was behind me all the way. But I felt like I knew something she didn't know, and that was just how expensive it could be. So I told her, "Mom, I'll pick something else, we'll figure it out." She said, "Abby, there's always a way." So growing up in Phoenix, it had always been a dream of mine to attend the University of Arizona and the College of Medicine. And I remember in the morning I would drive to North High School in Central Phoenix, and I would go north on 7th Street. And to my left there was a copper building, and it had the U of A logo on it. And I thought, only in my wildest dreams would I get to go to medical school and in the same community that I was raised in. So when I learned that I was accepted to medical school, it really was a celebration for everyone, because up until that point, every single person in my family had believed in me more than I believed in myself. And thankfully, I had gotten a full ride to the University of Arizona in Tucson. Thank you. But I was still working multiple jobs to help make ends meet. And I vividly remember I spent my birthday money on my first set of MCAT books that I bought off Amazon. And I was accepted into the Pathway Scholars program where I earned a master's degree before going to medical school. And in my last year of medical school, I was preparing for residency. And I again told my mom, there's a lot of upcoming fees. There's some fees associated with board exams and study materials and interview and application fees. And she was like, "There's always a way." Okay. And then I received an email from Dean Lucio, the Dean of the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, which I had been a part of since the beginning of medical school. And it notified me that I had been nominated for a scholarship from ElevateMeD, a local nonprofit. And I could not click fast enough on that link. And I was reading the story, and I thought to myself, wow, this is exactly what students like me need. And their values align so closely to mine, because scholarships have, of course, helped me get to this point. But there are so many other gaps along the way for underrepresented minorities. And they really understood and they really prioritized that. And so, aside from the financial support, there's financial management education, there's leadership development, there's peer network support, there's mentorship, something I had never experienced before. And those gaps were filled by ElevateMeD. And I was even connected to an Arizona native and a proud Latina who's a physician leader. And so beyond that, I've been given incredible opportunities like being here tonight. I was featured on PBS, Arizona Horizon. And they not only gave me the tools to get through medical school, but to be successful beyond that in residency. And I've learned, by example, that you have to wake up every day and you have to dream big, and then you have to go beyond that. Because not only did I attend the school of my dreams, but I graduated as the first physician in my family and joined the 2.4% of Latina physicians in the US. And so 1 week before match day, I stood in the middle of the campus with my family at my side, and I presented my research project titled Disparities in Diagnosis and Access to Treatment in Autism Spectrum Disorder in Latino Communities, inspired by my cousin. And my uncle stood next to me, and he was looking up at the building and pointing to the U of A logo. And he told me about how he had been one of the construction workers that had built that very building that I admired for so many years from afar. And just a few days later, I would be back in that same courtyard, opening up the letter that said that I had matched into family medicine residency at my #1 choice at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. And so looking back on the challenges that at one point felt impossible to overcome, and the setbacks that really are what propelled me forward, I use these to my advantage, to see the world through a different lens, to hear patients' story with just a little more empathy, and to really see and hear the person that sits before me. Because in just a few short months, I've gotten to immerse myself in a new community in Washington, D.C. And when I introduce myself as Dr. Solorio, it's a position I do not take lightly. But let me tell you, there's something extra special about introducing to myself to a Spanish-speaking family as Doctora Solorio. And I get to reassure the mom that yes, I speak Spanish, and I get to hear her sigh of relief. And I see the little girl in front of me that English is maybe not her best language or her first language, but I get to reassure her that there's someone like me in her life. And I ask her what she wants to be when she grows up. And she says, I want to be just like you. And so, as I stand here, a child of immigrants, now a family medicine physician, I see that there are many more like me that don't have an ElevateMeD, that don't have a mom that says there's always a way. There are minority students who have the ability and the dream, but don't have the resources. So I want you to think about the people that you can elevate with your contributions, because ElevateMeD has made a critical contribution in my journey. My family has contributed to me, my community has contributed to me, and now you can contribute to ElevateMeD. Because this moment is a testament to the support system that has really carried me on their shoulders during the challenges. So to all the supporters and donors who have made this mission possible, I want to extend my deepest appreciation. Because your contributions really, really speak to us scholars. And your contributions allow our belief to grow our potential. You have set a ripple effect of positive change in medicine. You have made investments in the future of healthcare and in the well-being of our communities. And I've learned that what happened to you can be your power, and you are capable and worthy of your wildest dreams, because there's a space for you and your story. Thank you. Gracias.